I was honored to be the group leader of our perinatal loss support group in our local Chicagoland area. In group, we would talk about so many areas of grief and loss, mood and anxiety, relationship and family. As we would talk about this around the table, members of our group would share some of the heartache and misunderstanding from their loved ones. So many of them shared that they suffered from anxiety, both right after the loss and for months and maybe even years to come. In today's video, I wanted to cover miscarriage, stillbirth, and coping with anxiety. My name is Kathryn Gardner. I'm a mom and a licensed clinical professional counselor and a certified perinatal mental health specialist. My therapy practice specializes in working with moms and moms-to-be. I wanted to provide these videos to you so more women had access to these easy coping tools and self-care tips. The topic today is something that we don't talk about enough. Miscarriage, which is a loss of pregnancy between the first week to the 20th week of gestation, and stillbirth is the 20th week all the way through the 40th week. After your miscarriage or stillbirth, you may notice anxiety symptoms that you're having. They're showing up with racing thoughts, replaying the events that have happened, where you were, who was talking to you, who you had to go and tell about the loss. Maybe you're having a hard time sleeping. It's common to have disrupted sleep, waking in a jolt, feeling like you're always uneasy, hypervigilant, which is constantly scanning and checking. Is there more danger that's going to come? Is there another bad event that I'm going to have to endure? When we feel so vulnerable, when we feel so heavy from our grief and loss, it can feel overwhelming to think about more stress to have to handle, more difficult things to have to overcome. Your anxiety may be showing up in your physical symptoms: stomach aches, neck tension, headaches. You may notice that you're uneasy, you're irritable, you want to be alone. You might even be having more panic symptoms like fight or flight from all that adrenaline that's been pumping in your system. You also have so many hormones going through you. If you've watched some of my other videos, I've done videos on first trimester anxiety, second trimester anxiety, third trimester anxiety, and postpartum anxiety. I've talked about how certainly if this was your first time of a loss, but what if this is your second loss, or third, or fourth? If you've been through the process of IVF and fertility struggles to even try to get to be pregnant, how much that increases all of the emotions. Maybe your anxiety has been triggered by this was an unplanned pregnancy and you were having some negative thoughts about even being pregnant or wanting the pregnancy. Maybe your relationship is in a stressful place. Finances are really tight right now. Other medical and health issues are going on, and you couldn't imagine, how am I going to carry a pregnancy to term? How am I going to handle a newborn? Maybe you and your spouse decided this was going to be your last child. So now you're confused. That was supposed to be our last child, but when the child did not live, what do we do next? Or you're alone right now. Your relationship is not strong. Your support system is not in place, and you were feeling very overwhelmed about the news of the pregnancy. So this certainly adds to how it's going to complicate the grief that you're having afterwards. David Kessler is the author of many grief books. He is the founder of grief.com. I'll put the link down below. He shares in his grief work that the more complicated that the loss was, the more complicated that the grief is going to be. So in all of the factors of how you found out, of how the pregnancy was going, all plays a role into how your grief process is going to be going. Were you thinking that the pregnancy was going along very smoothly and there were no bumps and complications? And so how shocking and upsetting to be at a doctor's appointment, and now in the year 2020, perhaps you were at those appointments alone, and have some very surprising news that either something was going wrong or, very sadly, there was no longer a heartbeat. As you were trying to digest that and process, what does that mean? What has happened? Why? All of these questions, it's leaving you so uneasy. Maybe you didn't even know you were pregnant. It was early enough on, you weren't really watching your cycles, and suddenly you started to feel very sick and have a lot of cramping and pain. In either the hospital or home, taking a pregnancy test and realizing, oh my goodness, my HCG levels are up and I'm actually pregnant. This is a miscarriage that I'm having. Your miscarriage or stillbirth may have had a medical crisis to it. Severe bleeding, hemorrhaging, maybe in the workplace, at home in front of other children, at a hospital. Did the hospital staff give you the support and sensitivity that you needed? You might have felt so alone and so abandoned. They weren't coming into your room to check on you very often. Or the ultrasound tech made a face and made things very awkward for you that you could tell something was wrong, but then she quickly left out of the room. And that's why all of the complicated situations that you went through are really impacting how heavy and intense the emotions that you're feeling are. In my videos, I hope to give you coping tools, and that's what we're going to go through next. If my videos are helpful to you, please subscribe and ring that bell down below. It'll then notify you in your feed that each Friday a new video has come up. I make videos about pregnancy, postpartum, and in motherhood. These coping tools are ways that you can improve all of the unpleasant emotions that you're experiencing, manage the thinking and overthinking that you're doing, and find a way to find peace. My first tip for miscarriage and stillbirth, coping tools for anxiety, is sharing where you're at. It may not be pretty. It may not make sense. It may feel like you're on some kind of roller coaster. You're doing okay and you're taking care of your other family members, and then you're down and you'd rather just climb into bed. You are medically healing as well, right? Your hormones post-pregnancy are still trying to even out. So you may not even be sure, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Who am I even going to tell? Some of you may say, well, I hadn't even announced that we were pregnant yet. It was still early on. We were waiting for more ultrasounds. There were concerns early on that something might be wrong, and so we had held back in who we talked to. As you think in your mind, who is trustworthy to me? Who is someone who has compassion, is a good listener, and gives me their ear? They're not there to give me advice and suggestions and tips and what you should do and what you shouldn't feel. They're there to listen. They're there to just be there for you and be understanding that this is complicated and upsetting. Tip number 2 is allowing yourself to feel the feelings. Years ago, when I go back and do historical work on pregnancy loss, no one was talking about it. If you went to the hospital, you may have gone to the hospital, had a procedure, maybe a D&C, came home, and nobody talked about it again. Now we're reaching a point in society where we do talk about it. It is more acknowledged, but it still has a lot of taboos. People can feel judged. I've heard women say in our support group or in my private practice, oh, well, I didn't want to talk about it at work because so-and-so said that they had an even farther along pregnancy and they seemed to bounce back just fine. So then we judge ourselves. How can I be so upset about a 6-week loss? Or we judge ourselves and don't allow ourselves to feel our feelings that other people seem to have moved on. A couple months have maybe passed. The grandparents aren't talking about it as often. Maybe even you and your spouse are not talking about it directly to each other as often. And you may feel a guilt or a confusion, but I'm still grieving. I'm still feeling this sadness and this anger and this resentment and the why me's, weeks, months. And I've met with women who will tell you years have gone by and they haven't had the time to work through that. They didn't allow themselves to feel what they're feeling. Some people feel judged. Well, it was a pregnancy. It wasn't a baby that was here and everybody got to hold and everybody knew that baby and everybody knew that baby's or child's personality. But as a mother, from the moment we take that positive pregnancy test, we already begin mothering. We begin considering our bodies differently, what we're doing, what we're lifting, what we're eating, what we should take, what we shouldn't take, how we should go to the doctor, body scanning, what feels different, what's changed. Immediately, we start to recognize, wow, there is a life growing inside of me. And so as we get that devastating news that there's been a death, it's very hard for sometimes our others to recognize what that death feels like to us and how we need to be able to be allowed to feel our feelings. Tip number 3 in decreasing our anxiety is that anxiety can be a wheel where we replay things, the woulda, the shoulda, the coulda. And this is so common in pregnancy. In a pregnancy loss, we are wondering, was it something I did? Was it something I didn't do? Maybe there was more I should have told the doctor at my last visit. Maybe there were signs and signals I should have picked up on. When I've met with women who have had third trimester losses, a stillbirth, so commonly they will say, well, I felt the baby kicking the day before. I paid attention, but we were kind of busy and running around and doing a lot of things. Maybe I didn't drink enough water. Well, that's where we want to release our guilt. This is the hardest part of coping and grief, that we take an ownership over that pregnancy. We take full responsibility. This is my body and this is my role to care for this baby fully and completely. But the best way to release that anxiety about it is to talk to your medical professional and say, I am feeling such guilt. I keep blaming myself and I'm stuck there. Can you review with me? And I'm going to tell you, sometimes I'll have women, they'll say, boy, right at that follow-up to their D&C or right at the follow-up to their miscarriage, they will talk about, okay, this is what happened and please run me through the medical details of it. But I have also encouraged women months, years later, calling back to that obstetrical or midwife team and really getting your details straight. It's blurry in the moment. So when you return, you've got your key questions. What happened? Can you explain to me? The medical team did A, then B, then C. Maybe you were already in the labor and delivery room and something started to go very, very wrong. And you're replaying, did the doctor make a bad choice? Did I make a bad choice? Did we understand everything that was going on? Maybe at your 20-week ultrasound, you got some information that there were going to be some problems with the baby's health. Maybe we should have done more. Maybe we should have started to call specialists. We replay all of this. So it's important to go back and gather your facts from the medical team and clarify where you can release your blame. The last tip for anxiety after a miscarriage or stillbirth is really about recognizing where you are in the here and now. Anxiety loves to torture us with replaying the past, with dwelling too much on the future and what we should do up ahead. So the best technique is really to focus yourself on today. Say today's day of the week out loud. Today is, and acknowledge, I'm here today. Today is not the day that my traumatic event occurred. I am still thinking about it. It will always be with me, but it didn't happen today. because that helps to calm down the brain, that scanning for that hypervigilance. Wait, now, is there more danger now? Is there something happening that I need to handle right now? If we want to replay that past, we want to do it constructively, productively, where it helps us to acknowledge the feelings that we're having and being able to give ourselves grace that those are okay to feel, those are okay to have, and that with time, they will shift. When we dwell too much in the past, we're replaying things that we don't have control over anymore. Same with the future. Now we're wondering, should we get pregnant again? How soon? Should we start getting rid of all the baby stuff? How do I deal with looking and seeing all of these baby items? Depending on how far along you were in the pregnancy, you may have gathered many items, and you certainly may have already had a baby shower. I always encourage women and couples, that's the time to use grandma's basement. Call your parents and say, can we gather these special items? Keep them at your house. I can't walk around just looking at them and constantly being triggered. They're safe at your home. When I'm ready, I will go to your house and get them back. So as you focus on today, that's the part you do have control over. And our anxiety management, you can go up to my video on the anxiety scale. What anxiety number are you? That video is a great example of how to know how high or low your anxiety, your racing thoughts, your panic, and what to do at each level. The anxiety that your body's experiencing may need to be exerted out, or it need to be relaxed down. It's breathing, it's being in this moment and acknowledging I'm taking care of my body, I'm taking care of my mind, I'm taking care of my heart today. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that my videos are always helpful and encouraging. They give you easy coping tools and they give you information of how you can take care of yourself. Subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, show others that you're liking it, you're enjoying it, that it helps you. Leave a comment down below today. Are there things that you're doing that have had a helpful impact on your anxiety, ways that you have decreased it? It may help other moms and readers to my channel. My name is Kathryn Gardner. I'm a mom, I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor, and a certified perinatal mental health specialist. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself today.